Yes, once again, this is our Brother Jamal coming to you to bring you a segment on Black history that we wanted to bring to you. This segment we've been doing, we thought that we would start doing a Black history segment, something that we wanted to start doing. I had began doing it on my YouTube channel where I was live streaming it through Instagram and Facebook. That didn't work out, so I'm pre-recording this. We'll post it, and if you have any comments, any questions about anything, we can, come back, inshallah, next Saturday, and we'll try to answer that or try to deal with it. I had asked some questions about the prior shows that we had did on Black history. It was about the Malcolm Little, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, better known as Malcolm X. I'd asked some questions about him last week, about the place that he was born, things like that, his date of birth, stuff like that. His father, what kind of work was his father doing? Who was he connected to? Who was he working on behalf of his father? Reverend Earl Little was a Baptist minister in Omaha, Nebraska, and Malcolm X was born May 19, 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. Malcolm X's father was a worker for the organization I said is called the UNIA, and that's simply the Universal Negro Improvement Association. That's what that was named. The founder was Marcus Mosey Garvey. Marcus Mosey Garvey was born in August the 17th, 1887, and that was the person that Malcolm X's father, Malcolm Little, El Haj Malik El Shabazz, that's the person his father was working on behalf of the UNIA in Omaha, Nebraska at that particular time. And so we wanted to bring this to you this morning, just to kind of share, if you will, a little information to you as we continue our segment on African American history, Black history we call it, for the youth. And we are simply talking about the organization that Malcolm Little father was working was actually working and involved in Omaha, Nebraska at the time his father was alive. Reverend Earl Little was a worker, was an organizer for the black people in Omaha, Nebraska. The organization was called the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And the founder of that organization was Marcus Mosey Garvey. He was born in St. Ann Bay, August 17th, 1887. And that was the kind of work that he was doing in Omaha, Nebraska. And so as we talk about this, it's extremely important to understand. Now you can understand where Malcolm got his roots, where his roots came from. His father was an organizer. His father was a worker for the UNIA during that time. Mind you, now we're talking about the 1920s in Omaha, Nebraska. And as we said last week, I want to kind of just mention that again. His father was going around talking to the black people in Omaha, Nebraska about being self-sufficient, about raising and growing their own food and their own crops and having their own businesses and stores and things like that. And so they wouldn't be dependent on, on the whites there in Omaha. And once that word got around, then they came to Malcolm House to threaten him, and actually told Malcolm's mother that she needed to talk to her husband about the kind of work, not the conversation didn't go that way, but I'm wording it, different. They came to Malcolm's house and threatened her mother about her husband and the kind of work he was doing and what he was doing by going around talking to the black people about having their own businesses, having their own shops, doing this, doing that. They didn't like that, and told her to tell her husband he better stop. So, quite naturally, Reverend Little continued to keep his work up, and they eventually murdered Malcolm Little's father in Omaha, Nebraska. They eventually murdered him. Reverend Earl Little was actually murdered, and his mother had a nervous breakdown. Actually, she lost her mind. She ended up in a mental hospital, and I don't think she ever got out of that hospital. I don't think she ever recovered from that, and then at that point it broke the family up. But once again, the organization is called the Universal Negro Improvement Association. It was founded by the Honorable Marcus Mosey Garvey, who was born in 1887. Marcus Garvey was the youngest of his father's 11 children, 9 of whom died in childhood. Garvey attended elementary school in St. Ann Bay, that's Jamaica. St. Ann Bay is in Jamaica. He was actually a Jamaican. At the age of 14, Garvey appeared to be an apprentice. He got into the apprentice trade at the age of 14. And so he had a love and a compassion for books. Love and a compassion for books. And his father saw that compassion and love that he had for books and always going to the library, always reading. And so his father encouraged him to go on and follow his pursuit of reading and studying and doing things like that. Eventually what happened, Marcus Mosey Garvey, he began to come in contact with many people who had stores and shops and began to discuss with them, politics, began to talk about social affairs. And so this began to open up a whole new avenue for him as a young man and a young person, as he began to do that. So that's kind of just a little brief about Marcus Mosey Garvey. I don't want to get into too much about him. Now, the organization that Marcus Mosey Garvey was the founder of was, I said, UNIA. Their theme was one God, one aim, one destiny. That was their theme. The colors were red, black, and green. And that was the theme. Once again, one God, one aim, one destiny. That was the theme of the UNIA. And the reason we are mentioning this organization, because we want you to kind of get a feel of what kind of lineage that Malcolm Little, what he came from. He came from this lineage where his father was an activist at a young age, and Malcolm saw this. He recognized this, so that's where all that came from. His environment, that's where it came from, at a very young age. So once again, the question that I have for the youth and for the young people out there, if you catch this video, what city was it that the Marcus Mosey Garvey, what city was he working out of? What city was it? It wasn't Omaha, Nebraska. That's where Malcolm X, Malcolm Little's father was at. But what city was it that the Honorable Marcus Mosey Garvey actually had his organization, had his organizing his base, what city was Marcus Mosey Garvey working out of? What major city? There was one city in the U.S. that he worked out of. He did his operation, he had his organization, he had headquarters and everything. What was that city at? So, inshallah, next week, if you can, get to that and see if you can give us some feedback.